and we will get started here. Kristen hopefully will be joining us soon. She is my wife and co-director. We have twin 3-year-old boys, and bedtime life, like Forrest Gump says, is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. So hopefully she will be down here soon to join us. But really just wanted to start by thanking you all for being here. We really love sharing Beyond Akeela with you all, with others. And so I really appreciate you just taking the time to join us this evening. This is going to be our 12th summer at Beyond Akeela. We're really proud of how it's evolved over the years. And especially more like the past 6 years, we've sort of been in our college campus model, which I think has really been a sort of a big inflection point for our program. So excited to talk more about it with you all this evening. Like we always do at camp, we just sort of want to preview what you can expect from tonight, set your expectations for what you're going to be here for. So basically, we're going to be talking sort of high level about Beyond Akeela. You're going to see lots of photos. We're going to start more about philosophy, origin, like, you know, what we're doing here, how we're doing it. And then towards the end, we'll start to get a little more granular into like the actual types of activities that you're doing, things like that. You'll see what a sample week looks like. You know, so that's sort of how we're going to flow here. Going to take a break in between for questions too. So if you do have questions, do feel free to put them in the chat. You can either do it to everyone, or you can also send it to us privately. Our name is the Beyond Akeela Kevin and Kristen name. So without further ado, we will get started. And I'm going to share my screen so you guys can start to see lots of fun pictures. Here we go. All right. So, are you all seeing screen? Yep. Some thumbs up. Awesome. Great. Perfect. I'm going to change my screen so I can still see more of you. Again, feel free when you have questions, put them in the chat. We'll probably get to them more at the break periods. But if you have them, feel free to put them in the chat there. So I'm going to start just by telling you a little bit more about who we are as a family. So this is our family. That is those are the two twins I was talking about there. That's Simon and Arlo. They're about, I think, 2 in this picture. So they've sprouted quite a bit since then. And that is Kristen. So we live in Philadelphia. We have a dog named Lainey. She doesn't come to camp with us, but we love her dearly. And really, you know, one of the things we enjoy most about being in the city is just being able to walk around, go to playgrounds. Fortunately, there are coffee shops right next to the playground. So that's what we really love to do when we're not doing camp. And my background really has come really all through Akeela. I started with Akeela back in 2009, my first summer, and continued to come back in different leadership positions really until Akeela became my year-round life in 2013, and haven't looked back since then. And Beyond Akeela really became more of my passion and focus in my work with Akeela. Since I guess that was more in like 2016, 2017 when I started to shift my role over there. What I really enjoy most about the work that we do is getting to support families through a really tricky and challenging transition. The transition from high school to post-high school, college is definitely a tough one to navigate for a lot of families, and being able to be a resource for them, a place that provides growth opportunities for their teens to get ready and change from college capable to college ready is something we really value about what we do. Kristen, I'll do just a really brief intro on her too. She would do it much better than I can, but I will certainly do my best. She started working with Akeela in 2015 as a counselor. We actually met at camp, and that's where our journey together started. But she's been at camp every summer since. Her background from an educational standpoint is more in counseling, psychology, but she brings that expertise into our camp community. During the year, she is a middle school counselor here in Philadelphia where we live. So that's her year-round role is not necessarily Beyond Akeela all the time. She has her life with the school district during the year, and then the summers we're together running camp. Fortunately, we do have a nanny who joins us over the summer to take care of our children. So you don't have to worry about us being distracted by the little ones while we're at camp. So before we get into some big picture stuff, just to like sort of shape your view of sort of like what we're talking about here, some really basic quick facts of Beyond Akeela. So Camp Akeela was founded in 2008. That's really the starting point of where Beyond Akeela grew out of. And Beyond Akeela started in 2011. Really, we were starting to get feedback from families who were having their campers age out of our Camp Akeela, which is our traditional camp program for younger kids. Campers were aging out at 16 years old, looking for more. What are we supposed to do in the summer? And so we sort of started to develop Beyond Akeela as a result of that. And as I said, it's taken many twists and turns to get to where it is today. We do 2 summer sessions each summer. It's about 50 to 60 teens a session. For a reference point, we were at about 20 teens a session 3 years ago. So we've really grown a lot in the past few years. It's been an exciting development, certainly in camp. We have about 25 or so experienced staff members each summer. That includes our professional leadership team, Kristen and I, a full-time nurse on staff as well, a registered nurse in the state of New Hampshire. We're located on the campus of Franklin Pierce University down in Rindge, New Hampshire. Reference point is about an hour and a half outside of Boston. For transportation, we do pickups at Boston Logan Airport too. So for families flying in, that's a nice, easy reference point for you. And one thing to sort of note, some people think when they think of college readiness or college prep, they think academics, and that couldn't be further from the truth for us. We are definitely not an academic program. Really what we try and focus on is the social skill development, executive function, and self-advocacy. We find that those are typically the skills that our teens really benefit from more support and practice with before entering the college environment. So with that, we're going to talk a little bit more, I think, about what makes Beyond Akeela really unique, especially when compared with other college readiness programs. And I think the big term that comes with it is community. And hopefully you'll see that in a lot of the images you see today. I think certainly if you see camp in action, you feel it, but hopefully these images will give you a sense for that this evening. But I think that's really what allows us to create some of the outcomes that we do for our teens, is giving them a place where they can feel really comfortable being around like-minded peers, around staff members who really understand them as well, and really doing a lot of intentional community building, even from, now, right, doing the hot dog question, things like that. We're always doing things like that to help people connect with one another. And that's a really important part of what works about camp. And I think it also helps people step outside of their comfort zone a little bit. It allows them to take more risks. It allows them to, try new things that they wouldn't have tried before, with some coaching behind it as well. And the comfort that our campers feel in our community to do that is really what makes it very impactful for our campers. So you're not going to feel like this at camp. I know there's some teens on the call. This is not actually a picture from Beyond Akeela. It's the only one on this that's not from Beyond Akeela, but this is not what you're going to feel. You're not going to feel like you're in this classroom and someone's lecturing you the whole time. We really believe in experiential learning, community building. Those are the things that make our community really special and unique when compared with other college readiness programs out there. And then again, that really starts with bringing the right group of neurodivergent teens together, people who are college capable, working towards being college ready. Again, and really focusing a little bit more on those 3 skills I mentioned: the social development, executive function, and self-advocacy as sort of key emerging skills that a lot of our teens are still working on. And what we find is that our teens are really walking away, I think, with a better sense of self, a better sense of self-awareness, and just more confidence, newfound confidence that they can overcome some of the hurdles and transitions that they're going to face once they get off to a college environment. And then another component here, we have someone who's joined, so I'm just going to let them in. Another component I think that's important to talk about when you think sort of high level Beyond Akeela and what our philosophy is we look at independence in a few different ways. So the first way is this concept of freedom and choice, something that I think teens have earned at the age that they're coming to camp. They're certainly ready for that, more freedom in their summer experience. So we're building a lot of choice into our programming so that teens have a little bit more of a sense of agency in what they're doing. They've bought in because they've pre-selected most of the things that they're doing while they're at camp. And we're creating a lot of opportunities for independent decision-making too. That's one of the really key skills we want our teens to continue to develop and build confidence in and get a little more practice with. So that's what you're going to see a lot of at Beyond Akeela, really a lot of choice-based activities, campers controlling their own schedule and really advocating for themselves too. If they say, hey, this is not going the way I thought it would. I thought we'd have maybe more of this during free time. Okay, let's talk about how we can make that happen for you. We have a smaller community. It's easier for us to be a little flexible with some of those things to, again, empower our campers to advocate for themselves and really help them have a more successful experience while they're with us. Certainly, some of that too just comes from more opportunities for our campers to socialize independently too. Going to farmers markets, downtown areas, going to museums, and giving our teens opportunities just to travel around and socialize independently away from staff members all the time and not feeling like they're constantly being sort of counseled and watched, right? That's something that's really important at the age that our teens are. And really the goal in all of this is just to create a program that's more catered to our teens, more catered to you and your interests, so that you're getting the most out of the experience that you want. And I think something that really comes along with that, that sense of freedom and choice is responsibility. There's an added responsibility that you have as a teenager, a young adult, to earn that freedom and to continue that freedom in your life. So teens are really, again, practicing some critical skills while they're with us to help transition from being college capable to college ready. So when that comes to things like executive functioning, managing their schedule a little bit more independently, every teen's going to get a customized schedule based on pre-selected activities that they're going to follow throughout their time at camp. So that's very similar to college, right? You're going to get your own schedule, you're going to have to follow it. Obviously, there's going to be some coaching and scaffolding in terms of support that we're providing for that as well. Getting up in the morning, getting to breakfast on times, transitioning from activities to one another independently, making sure you have all your belongings. You're going to get a lot of practice with those things at Beyond Akeela. From a life skill standpoint too, there's cooking that we're going to be doing. Each camper is going to have a chance to cook at least twice while they're with us at camp. Doing their own laundry, managing money when they go out, to these different small towns, having a budget to sort of allocate out over the course of the 2.5 weeks that they're with us. So again, it's a lot of practice, experiential learning that we want our campers to experience while they're with us. Again, there's not going to be lectures necessarily about these things. It's going to be more just practice, and then with staff members who are there to really help coach you through all that. And so that's sort of what we're going to talk about next, is what our coaching model. We really try to individualize this experience for every teen. And that's where our well-trained and experienced staff come in. They're coming in from backgrounds of education, counseling, speech language pathology, special education, I could go on, social work, but these are really experienced young people who are, striving to be educators, therapists, school counselors of the world in the future. So they're really looking at this as a professional development opportunity, in addition to a really fun opportunity too. Camp is really fun and engaging. So they're really self-selecting into our environment because they want some developmental experience. They don't want a research job, though. They don't want to be stuck in a lab. These are people who want to build rapport with campers. And they use that rapport that they're building with the campers to be really great coaches, to identify moments with campers when get a sense, hey, maybe I need a little more help with my time management and getting places on time. So I'm going to talk with Counselor John about that. And John's going to notice when, a camper needs a little bit more support with that sort of thing because of the ratio that we have. It's about a 1-to-3 ratio on the floors, but again, closer to even like, 1-to-2 from an overall adult to teen ratio. Campers also are setting goals early in the summer with staff members. Those are individual one-on-one conversations. That's what you're seeing here in this image between a staff member and a camper. Staff are using those conversations again to help guide the individualized experience of each camper. So they're really making the most of it. And the coaching scaffolded too. So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. We're not following some curriculum or set program like a peers, let's say, that maybe some of you have heard. That's not our model. Our model is to work with campers on their individual goals that they come to camp with and help provide coaching in the moment throughout their time while they're at camp. And this other picture I want to show you about our staff is this is from, I think, summer 2021. We had a staff member who was sort of making a wager with their campers about some goals that they were working towards as a group. The group achieved those goals and got to pie their camper in the face at an evening meeting in front of all of camp. So that just sort of, I want to show you, these are the people who are, wanting to work in our community, people who are still willing to get pied in the face. Willing to get pied in the face while they are with us at camp. So it's a fun group of people. And with that, I am going to take a quick break to see if we have any questions. A couple screens going here. So let's see. See one question about the hot dog. Is it not a sandwich because of the bun due to its shape? It's actually a taco. That's a very interesting point. I've not thought about that way. Some people do ask us about meals at camp, so we can talk a little bit about what food looks like. Maybe this will help generate some other questions too. So we eat at the campus cafeteria each day. Those are, breakfast, lunch, and dinner is going to be there. It's all very much like cafeteria style food, and it's not like an a la carte, you pay for what you eat. So anytime we go in, whatever's available is available to us. So campers definitely are getting to sort of pick and choose and have to make choices about what they're going to be eating. We don't make a big deal out of food, so we're not going to, have reward systems on food or consequences based off food. We don't believe in anything like that. Really, at the end of the day, we just want our teens to be satiated and have food in their bellies and not have that be something that is a hiccup for them at camp. We do tend to have sometimes pickier eaters too, which is okay. We always have conversations with families about that beforehand, really just to make sure that we have the right available foods for teens while they're at camp. So one thing that we do for that too is we make sure that there's always plain pasta, hamburgers, and hot dogs available at the meals that we're having. That is just like some basic foods that we know most people are going to eat. There's always PB&J at the meals. For those of you who are worried about from an allergy standpoint for nuts, those are in a separate section. It's never included as part of like the main entree or anything else that's sort of up at the front line. And they're very good about labeling things. We give allergy lists and such things like that, so that the staff or the kitchen staff who are working at Franklin Pierce know who they're feeding. All right. We got a question about how many weeks the program is. It's a 2.5-week program, and we do 2 different sessions. Families are welcome to do both sessions. It is a repeated program, so it's not there's not necessarily set progression from the first session to the second session. They really run the same. There is a lot of choice built into the program though, so you can get a variety of different experiences and really a new peer group too that in that second session. Good question. Anything else? All right. We are going to keep going then. I'm going to go back to my screen of the pie face. So let's see here, make sure it goes through. All right, so we are back. All right, so we're gonna move on from our friend. This is our staff member Justine from a few years ago. Just talk quickly about a little bit more now in the details of camp, and we'll talk more about activities and such. But before we get to that, want to sort of give you a layout of what how we break out the groups at camp. So there are 3 different cohorts. We have a foundation cohort, which is primarily current high school sophomores, and sometimes juniors are in that cohort. Transition, high school juniors, seniors at times, and then post-grad is for people who have just graduated high school or maybe have taken a gap year of some sort. So sort of look at it as like a timeline, before they're sort of exiting high school, more or less, of, foundation. So 2 more years before you're really thinking about college, transition 1 more year, and then post-grad, sort of like next year, college is going to be a reality or a transition program of some sort. The programming that we do, some of it is mixed together. So, all the 50 campers are picking and choosing between, similar activities, and you could have people from foundation, transition, and post-grad all in the same cohort. There are also activities that we do that are intentionally focused just on one cohort. So that, things like, just for example, we do college visits with our foundation cohort. We know that sometimes people who have finished their junior year or finished their senior year, college visits may not be as relevant for them. They may have sort of picked the path already in some cases. So those are optional for those groups. And we do like a college application workshop for the transition campers. And then we're doing a workshop that's more focused on accommodation access for our seniors. And so the differences between how you do that in high school, how you do that in college. So that's how we sort of differentiate the programming a little bit, so that it still feels relevant, and there's some progression to the program between years. Because we do have campers who will come multiple years. This is the first year that we actually have teens who are eligible to come for 3 years in a row, and we do have some who are doing that. So very excited that we'll have some 3-year Beyond Akeela teens at camp this summer. All right, so dorm life. Dorm life, as you can see, is very fun at Beyond Akeela. And really the dorm layouts are by, we have 3 different floors. Typically, they're by cohort. So there's a foundation floor, transition floor, and a post-grad floor. And the floors are co-ed. So there are lounges on those floors that everyone's hanging out in. So you can see the picture on the left there. Computer lounges too, that campers use to email back and forth with home. And then there's typically 3 wings on each floor. So there's a male wing, a female wing, and a gender neutral wing. We send out roommate surveys to get preferences on those wings and arrangements before campers arrive, so that we can place campers in the wing that suits them most appropriately. And we will have, there's a communal bathroom that each wing is sharing. So the staff members are living on the floors as well in singles. So, it's a communal living situation that the campers are all a part of. And then some of you may have questions about roommates. So we'll talk a little bit about roommates really quickly. And Kristen's actually here. Bedtime has concluded. So she is here now. I'm just going to finish this and then go into that, and then we'll keep going here. So roommates, we really do our best to pair everyone with a roommate we think that they're going to coexist really well with, but also get along well with too. So we use the information that we getting to know people during the camper application process, and also through a roommate survey that we send out in the spring, like I mentioned earlier, just to do our best to pair people together who we think, again, are going to get along. And then we'll actually connect those folks before camp begins so that they can start to build some relationships with their roommate before they actually arrive at camp. Of course, like minor things come up between campers here and there at camp. And those are always things that we work through. That's what the staff are really there for, is to help our campers navigate those different situations, coach them through them. With the overall goal of helping our teens have a lot of social success at Beyond Akeela. Sometimes we'll do roommate agreements, but we never really split roommates up. We always want them to work through the situations that they're navigating. And that picture on the right there, you can see some lanyards. So those are like our cohort identifiers. And they also have keys and key cards. So everyone who's coming to camp gets the tap card. That's how they get into the building, and the keys are for their room specifically. So it is really sort of like a college living environment that they're experiencing. All right, so we're going to talk about a sample week here really quick. And this is my last slide for a little bit, and then you get to hear Kristen talk, which is very exciting. So there really isn't a typical day at Beyond Akeela. We get that question a lot, like, what's a typical day look like? But as you can see from this, weekly overview, there isn't like a, not every single day is going to feel the same, and that's intentional. We really want our teens to get the experience of adapting their routines to new environments, to new schedules, so that they have more practice. It's more what college is going to be like for them. There are there is still structure to the days, though. We know our teens benefit from that, and we're always sort of previewing what to expect from each day. And campers are going to get a customized schedule, like I said, that's really going to look something similar to this, with their pre-selected options for the summer. So again, this is what they're going to be using to reinforce executive functioning skills, as a sort of constant reminder of what their schedule is. And then I think the rest of our piece today is going to be sharing a little bit more about what some of these activities actually look like and what we're doing in them. And then we'll have, again, more time for Q&A at the end here. So we will get on to the activities.
Yeah, so the first part of our program that I'll explain are different camp activities. So these are some of those traditional camp activities that you may have heard of other summer camps running. So we have things like arts, music, creative writing, D&D, a very popular one, Dungeons and Dragons, team sports, wilderness survival, theater, yoga, and mindfulness. And this is just a great opportunity for teens to try something new, maybe something that they've been interested in and haven't had the time or space to do it, and also to socialize with teens who have similar interests to them. Yes, and another big part of our program is community service or internship program. So community service is a really popular part of our program. It's a great chance for teens to have practice with on-the-job experiences, practice forming workplace relationships as well. It's a choice-based program, so teens receive a list of different options of opportunities for them, and they will choose a site that aligns most with their interests. And they return to that same site 6 times over the session that they're with us. So it's really great that they really get to simulate that job type experience, build relationships with the people that they're working with outside of our camp community. And a few options that we've had in past summers, we've had local libraries, or the campus library is an option. The YMCA, a local YMCA through the recreation department, and even the day camp working with younger kids. We've also had a couple farms working closely with us. So this is a good opportunity for all those animal lovers out there to work and help farms take care of their animals. There's also an option for the on-campus dining. What is it called? Hall, but supporting with that team there, which is a popular one.
And then some of our activities are going to be a little bit more geared towards college and have a little bit more of like a curriculum feel to them. So we did talk about college visits earlier. Really, our goal in doing those visits is to help teens get exposure to different types of learning environments. We recognize that not all of our teens are going to be applying to the schools that we're looking at that are sort of in this region. But what we try to do is expose teens to a variety of different learning environments. So Landmark College, which some of you may know, is about an hour away from Beyond Akeela. So that's a college we want to visit. Obviously, it's a school that's more designated, designed for neurodivergent learners, and smaller too. It's about 500 students. You compare that with a place like UMass Amherst, where we also visit, almost 30,000 students, huge public school, very urban setting. And so just getting teens a chance to feel out what those different environments are like. Again, that's something that all the foundation campers do. And then transition and post-grad campers have an option to join those college visits too, if it's something that they're really interested in. We also run curriculum sessions. Those are run by Beyond Akeela staff or beyond, or faculty from Franklin Pierce University at times too will help run them. This image that you're seeing now is a curriculum session. So again, these are not like lectures. They're more like discussions or activities that we have around topics that we feel are important for teens to be discussing to really reflect on their readiness for life after college. So some that are maybe more oriented to life skills, maybe like a cooking lesson with the chef at Franklin Pierce. That's what you see at the bottom there. We also have more career-focused ones about resume building, mock interviews. We bring in the admissions team from Franklin Pierce to talk about the college application process. There's some that are more like soft skill related. Chris runs a really great session on healthy relationships every year and navigating social life in college. So those are the types of things that campers can sort of pick and choose from while they're at camp. And some of those are going to be all together. Some of them are going to be choice-based. Most are choice-based though, while they're at camp. And then part of what makes Beyond Akeela really great too is that with that staff, they're then going to debrief those conversations more on an individual basis with the campers to help them sort of feel out, maybe how that conversation applies to them and their readiness for college too.
Yeah. And another big part of the program is practicing healthy living skills. So we infuse this into the program a couple different ways. One is those curriculum chats that Kevin was referring to. So we'll have staff lead sessions on nutrition and healthy exercise habits. And then teens have opportunities to build an exercise routine that works for them at camp. They have options to go for a swim or use the recreation department or the recreation site on campus. Some teens decide to take a walk around campus or do yoga, anything that works for them. We really just want them to be active and kind of practice building that into the routine. Another way that we do this is through menu planning. So we'll help campers build a menu for themselves, and they'll practice grocery shopping with staying within a budget. And making sure that those meals are healthy and balanced, and then they'll have opportunities to cook those meals with a few friends and the help of an advisor. In our evening program, this is when we get a chance to get together as a whole camp community every evening right after dinner. It's a chance for us to preview the day, what went on in camp that day, what's going to be expected the following day. And most importantly, my favorite part of evening meeting is a chance for us all to recognize each other's accomplishments. So campers and staff will shout one another out for the awesome things that they're seeing going on in camp. I think that public recognition and that praise is such an important piece of our program. And we want to make sure we always set time aside to do that. After each evening meeting, we break into evening activities, which we do a variety of different teen appropriate things. So some nights we'll have trivia nights, game nights, movie nights, hobby nights, off-campus trips like mini golf and bowling. And we always try to infuse as much choice as possible during these events too.
All right, we have just 2 more slides here before we get to the end of us chatting and get a chance for you guys to ask some more questions. So just really quickly on outings. We do a lot of trips at Beyond Akeela. You may have seen those in the weekly schedule there. And some of them are just to nearby cool towns. Northampton, Massachusetts, Brattleboro, Vermont are a couple that we often will go to. really fun places for our teens to walk around in small groups there. We'll also do more outdoorsy things like hikes. Hikes are definitely challenged by choice. So we're not saying, hey, you have to go up the top of the mountain. If you want more of like a nature walk experience, there's really great areas for us to do that around camp too. We're right next to Mount Monadnock. It's right in our backyard. It's a beautiful mountain. It's the most hiked mountain in the US, I believe. And it's right along the White Mountains and the Appalachian Trail. So it's a really special hike that some of our campers choose to do. And then we also do more of like an adventure trip too. So that can be like a choice between an amusement park, going river kayaking, or like a self-guided ropes course too. So lots of variety through our trips. And then our program culminates the last 3 days in Boston, Massachusetts, which is a really fun component of our program. It's a really great way to end our time together. A little bit of a celebration, but also sort of adapting a lot of the skills that we're working on in a new and very urban environment. And we're staying at a college campus in Boston as well. So we stay at the Mass College of Art and Design while we're there. It's right along the Metro, the T, for those of you who know Boston well, the Green Line, and we use that very frequently to get to and from different places while we're there. A lot of choices built in. We do some college visits while we're there. Curry College, some of you may know, is a school that is sort of like a neurodivergent friendly school is what I would call it. A lot of good learning supports at that program that we go visit as well. And you know, we see a lot of the city: Museum of Fine Arts, Museum of Science, Aquarium, Zoo, Faneuil Hall Marketplace, North End, Boylston Street, because everyone loves shopping, or at least teenagers really love to shop. So we want to give some good opportunities for you know, teens to see the city the way they want to. So again, there's a lot of choice built in to their time in Boston. All right, so before we get to Q&A, just to chat about next steps with you all. So certainly one thing we're gonna do is send out this recording. I know it's a lot of information and it might be helpful to review it a little bit at least. So we'll get that recording in your inbox. Certainly with the invitation to set up a time to chat too, and more individually about your teens and sort of what you're hoping they're getting out of their summer with Beyond Akeela, and sort of mutually assess, does it feel like the right fit for them this summer? And when you're ready, our applications are open. We'll go ahead and put some links in the chat here while we're doing Q&A. But we are enrolling campers, returning and new at this point. So we are have gotten that process started. And if it feels like something you are really interested in, we do have some early bird tuition available for families who apply before December 15th. So 30 days from now. But that is really the conclusion of like main content, but certainly want to give you all a chance to ask us some questions too. You can put them in the chat. You can unmute and ask really whatever you feel most comfortable doing. We will run with. So, all right, we got some questions coming in while we were talking. This is great. All right, so there are 2 questions about electronics. So do you want to talk about anything?
I can talk a little bit about electronics. So we actually are a, I guess no electronics sort of camp, but we do not allow campers to have items such as cell phones or any sort of electronic that would connect to Wi-Fi capability. We've tried that in the past, and it really takes away from the social experience that we're trying to cultivate. We only have 3 weeks with one another. So we found that without the distraction of social media and other pieces of technology, it's just a more fruitful experience for everybody. We do have, or we allow campers to bring like ebook readers, so they're not packing a lot of books into their suitcases. We also allow like MP3 players or other music playing devices, again, as long as they don't connect to Wi-Fi. And we also have computer labs on campus. So each floor, I think Kevin may have mentioned this, each floor has its own separate computer lab in which during free time, campers are allowed to access the laptops to communicate via email back and forth with home. Is that right? Yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah, again, the goal is not to sort of like take things away, but it is really just to provide a much more, a much better experience, I think, for our teens. Let's see, we got a question about parent visitation. So it is really an independent 2.5-week experience for the teens. So we don't have like a parent visiting day during camp. You can schedule a phone call with your teen while they're at camp. Absolutely. We also have a team of head advisors. So there's a one head advisor for each cohort. We may have 2 for the transition cohort pending its size. But that's going to be someone who reaches out to you as a parent just to keep you updated on how your teen is doing while they're at camp and let you know about the goals that they're working on and things like that. There's also going to be daily photos posted, news items. So you get a lot of communication coming from us. And then, of course, you can email back and forth with your teen daily, really, while they're at camp. But we do really want it to be an independent experience without sort of maybe a potential interruption sometimes when you have a visit like that. We have a question about transportation from the Philadelphia area. Love it. Love Philadelphia. We don't have a bus from Philly. However, we do have a bus from Tarrytown, New York. We have a good contingent of people coming from New York Metro Plus, let's say. So we do transportation from New York and also transportation from Boston. At the airport. We also end in Boston. So that's where most people either get picked up in Boston or will fly home from Boston. For New York families, we are working on a way to sort of staff a train actually back to New York. Amtrak's really close to where we are. I think it's a pretty easy way for teens to get back. Some teens just did it on their own last year and it was really easy for them to get home that way. All right, we have a question about tuition. Great question. So tuition is $78.20. I'm going off the top of my head, but I think that's right. That's definitely right. $78.20 for the 2.5 weeks. That really includes everything, including the transportation from those central spots in New York and Boston, and all the activities that our teens are doing. And then the early bird tuition is $7,600 for families who apply before. We do have scholarship opportunities as well, payment plans for those of you who are interested. So that certainly that can be a more private conversation if you'd like to discuss those more individually with us. Right. And yes, there's a question about the last days being spent in Boston. That is correct, yes. Last 3 days are in Boston. This is a good question. You can take that one.
About like if teams yes, part of our daily routine is there's a couple times in which teams can have time to decompress. One of which is right after lunch. We have a rest hour is what we call it. Every day, everybody's participating in rest hour. What that looks for different teams, for each teen is different. Some people need, camp's a really busy place. Some people might need to take a nap or at least rest in their beds while they're reading a book silently, alone from, the social pressures. Sometimes people are using that time to quietly play games in the lounge, and it's just a time to kind of get away from the whole camp. Another time would be there is a free time just before dinner every day too. This is when, if you are scheduled for a cooking group that day, this is when teens would be cooking or grocery shopping. But if you don't have either of those activities on your schedule, that's another chance for free time. Good time to use the computer lab or also just hang in your room, reading a book or listening to music. We do encourage teens to use those time to go out and socialize, but we all also recognize when teens do need time to decompress.
Yeah, and certainly, that sometimes teens, in an activity that they're in, let's say, may need a quick break. And so, we're always encouraging teens to make sure that they're advocating for themselves so that they can access that. And absolutely, if someone needs a break during an activity, needs like 5 minutes to just chill away from it, great. Just let someone know that that's what you're doing. So that's something we talk about, pretty openly with everyone at camp too. It's a great question. And then let's see, direct pickup available in Boston. Yes, so we will do pickup. It's likely all going to be at Boston Logan Airport. And the reason we do that is that we are a little bit of a smaller staff. So we're trying not to separate ourselves out in too many different places for pickups. So most, anyone who wants to get picked up from Boston, even if you're not flying in, but you're in the Boston area, we would just pick you up at the airport, basically. And obviously we'll send out lots of information, communication about places to meet and things like that. Ooh, another good one here. Bedtime.
Yeah, the next one is there a bedtime or set bedtime. So this is where we really give a lot of autonomy to our campers. Really want to make sure that they are able to set those times for themselves. We have quiet hours that we want to make sure that for the perspective of everyone who's living on camp, that after 10 p.m. things are pretty quiet. There might be some people still hanging out in the lounge or talking with friends, but they should, out of respect for everyone, should be generally quiet. And then rise for waking up. We ask that everyone is available and ready to go and at breakfast at 8 a.m. So if we're noticing that a teen is having a harder time waking up in the morning, we'll encourage them to go to sleep a little bit earlier or helping them navigate what time they need to wake up so that they're ready in time for breakfast. And that's a big piece of the program where our staff is really helping teens develop good routines.
Awesome. I saw a note. It looks like we need to speak a little bit closer to the mic. So sorry about that. We will do it. One thing we've had an issue with Zoom for some reason was both of us. We have to really lean in sometimes. So I apologize. The short of that is there is no set bedtime. There is no exact time that you have to wake up. We really want campers to manage their own schedule, but we do ask that campers are arriving at breakfast at 8 o'clock in the morning. And they're going to get some coaching if we notice that they're really tired. And there's quiet hours after 10 o'clock each night. Let's see, there is a question about if teens don't have their phones, do we have a way to track or just keep track of where people are if they don't show up to something? So yes, of course, we have rosters for all the different activities that are going on in camp. Certainly in the first couple days too, our breakouts are going to be a little bit more group oriented too, as people are sort of getting adjusted to this new environment, learning where things are. So we're going to make sure we have everyone before we go to a certain activity. But as we progress, staff are, they're walking around the halls to help make sure teens are also getting ready to go. So if they know that a teen might be a few minutes late to an activity because they're just getting a few last things ready, they're going to let whoever the activity instructor is for that activity the teen's going to know, hey, John's going to be a little bit late, but is going to be able to meet you there. And then obviously if John's not there in a couple minutes, that's when we as a staff are going to make sure go check in on John in his room and make sure that he has what he needs to get ready to go to that activity. When they walk around in downtown areas too, obviously that's a really big safety thing that's on our minds, is how we're keeping track of everyone. So we always have established meeting spots. Everyone's walking around in groups of 4 to 5 teens, and we give them a camp cell phone too. So we do have phones that they can use when they're walking around areas without staff present. Staff are around, there's always someone at a meeting spot too. Our cell phone numbers are programmed into the phones too, so that we're checking in and say, hey, we need to know with, text us in an hour, just let us know how you're doing, make sure you're okay. Things like that, so that, we really make sure that, because they don't have their cell phones, which is the way a lot of us sort of has as a safety thing these days, we have a way to supplement that at camp. And then another question about devices and electronics. So this was a question about gaming devices, even if they don't connect to the internet. So that would still fall in the category of things that we don't have, that teens are not bringing with them to camp. Again, that can become something that is a little bit more of a distraction for teens to prevent, some of the work that we're doing towards goals that they have, primarily socially. That's a good question. I know sometimes that it feels like, oh my gosh, how could I go without these things that we all use, like especially cell phones, right? We all use that very frequently in our daily life. I can't count the number of times I use my phone today. It's pretty amazing how quickly people get used to it, because it's a really busy day of camp each day. It's something that maybe day one or two, there's some like groans about it, but it's something that people really get over pretty quickly, we find. One other note, no one asked about healthcare at camp, but can certainly speak to that quickly, and then we can wrap up if there aren't any other questions. But I think I alluded to it early on, but we do have a registered nurse on staff, and also a nurse intern who's a current student nurse. Those are the people who are, overall taking care of the overall health of our camp community. And they are also ones who administer medication in our community. So it is a New Hampshire state law that we have to follow, that all of the medication that comes to camp must be stored in the health center, more or less. And then teens are then going to be responsible, if they do have medication, they are going to be responsible for going to the nurse to collect their medication at preset times. It's always known where the nurse is going to be and where they're going to be able to access their medication. And obviously, if anything comes up, first aid, bumper bruise, not feeling great, that's what the nurse is there for, and the nurse intern. And then they'll communicate with you if anything's going on more than like a very minor bumper bruise, let's say, at camp. But if you don't hear from the nurse, that's because you don't have any health things to worry about from the nurse. All right. Do you remember this one, where we visit colleges?
Yeah. So when we're in Boston, there's a few options campers to choose from and which colleges we visit. But the main ones are Curry College and Northeastern.
Those are the two we visited in Boston.
That's what
colleges in Boston. Yeah. And then just for reference, the other schools that we visited, Hampshire College in Amherst, UMass Amherst itself, and then Landmark and Keene State, which is a smaller public school in New Hampshire. It's about 20 minutes from our campus at Franklin Pierce. Campers can also do a tour of Franklin Pierce University with the admissions team there if they'd like to. And Franklin Pierce, just for reference, small liberal arts school, about 1,000 students there. All right. This next question is about COVID. We didn't talk about COVID at all today. This is the first info session we've done probably in, I don't know how long, I guess since 2019 probably, that I didn't use the word COVID at all until now, which is amazing. But what happens if someone gets COVID? So we had some experience with this last summer, which was expected. We didn't try to form a bubble. As you guys know, just from hearing this, there's a lot of community interaction, and people are coming from all over the place too, and flying on planes to get to camp. So we had, I think, 3 or 4 teens get COVID last summer. What happened, we just follow CDC guidelines really. And I don't know what that's going to look like this coming year. But right, as things stood last summer, basically it meant there was a, mandatory 5-day isolation. We had separate isolation space in our dorm. And for those campers, we made sure that they had their cell phone or a camp phone because they're isolated in a dorm room. And we really encouraged parents to come pick up their teens, just because it's a pretty tough environment for a team to feel isolated in for that long, knowing that they can't interact, or, you know, at that time they couldn't really interact with the community that much. And so most teams did get picked up after a day or two, maybe, but then they were able to return to camp within 5 days, or sorry, at day 5, provided they were testing negative on a rapid test. And then they would just basically wear a mask for the next 5 days beyond that. So we did have, I think, 2 campers who were able to come back just based on the timing of their COVID tests. For some of the others, it was just towards the end of camp, so they weren't able to come back. But we don't know exactly what that's going to look like next year. I'm sort of hoping it's more like the world that we're currently living in, where it's less of a concern. But yeah. All right. Can you watch a movie with your roommate in the evening? That's a good question. So we do movie nights at camp. Those are once a week. Yeah, once a week. And everyone watches together. We get, you know, in a big auditorium room, get a big projector out. It's a nice night, popcorn. There are some nights when like cohorts have done like a specific, like, hey, we've had a really great week. We're gonna have like a little party tonight and we're gonna set up a movie in our lounge or something like that. So that's certainly something that has happened too. But there wouldn't be like a night necessarily when, again, because you're not gonna have laptops or things like that you can use in your room specifically. So there's not gonna be opportunities to watch movies just personally with your roommate in your. Question here about camp insurance. I may ask just for a quick clarification. Is that about like if you sign up for camp but then have to cancel, what happens? Is that what you're getting at? Okay. So the chat came in. So I guess the question is there camp insurance if someone gets COVID? What we did is prorate days, basically. So if a team got COVID while they're at camp and had to go home, we prorated tuition the number of days that they were away from camp, so that you were paying basically for the time that they were actually there. Good question. Are there any other questions? Okay, no. We're at about the hour mark here. Thank you all. Awesome. All right. Well, we'll hang on just for another minute or so here. If people want to ask a question, maybe more private setting, that's totally okay. Or just want to stick around and say hello. But otherwise, thank you all so much for being here tonight, and really appreciate your time this evening. So, and we'll hope to hear from you all soon. Thank you. Oh, we got a last